Welcome to TruthCrimee, the podcast that dives deep into some of the most chilling and perplexing true crime stories. I'm your host, Samuel, and today we're exploring a harrowing case from 1968 that shocked a nation. The story of Mary Bell, a young girl whose actions would forever alter the lives of those around her. Before we begin, make sure to hit that subscribe button and leave us a comment with your thoughts on today's episode. Your engagement helps us bring more intriguing stories to light. It was 1968 in Newcastle, England, a time when the city was bustling with life, yet beneath its surface lay the shadows of a tragedy waiting to unfold. 4-year-old Martin Brown went out to play like many other children in his neighborhood. However, on that fateful day, Martin disappeared without a trace, leaving his family and friends in a state of panic and confusion. May 25th of that year, 3 boys were queued at a construction site when one of them stumbled upon the lifeless body of a small child. Frightened and unsure of what they had found, they ran to nearby workers to report their shocking discovery. This grim finding bewildered the police. Near Martin's hand was an empty bottle of painkillers, and his body was found lying on his back next to a window. His face bore signs of blood and saliva, leading authorities to initially believe it was a tragic accident due to a fall. But this would only be the beginning of one of the most shocking cases that horrified an entire country. On that same day, 2 girls from the same neighborhood were playing near where Martin's body had been found. Upon seeing the police, Mary Bell and her friend Norma Bell sneaked into the construction site to catch a glimpse of the scene. When discovered by officers, they were asked to leave but recognized Martin immediately. They rushed to inform his aunt about the incident with an unsettling nonchalance. Soon after this encounter, the hypothesis of an accident changed dramatically when an autopsy revealed that Martin had been strangled and struck hard on the head. Details that painted a far darker picture than anyone could have imagined. Meanwhile, Mary and Norma exhibited an unsettling curiosity about what had happened. Mary Bell was just 11 years old at this time, while Norma was 13. The 2 girls began frequently visiting Martin's aunt, asking her numerous questions. Some seemed sarcastic and mocking in tone. In the following days, Mary knocked on the Brown family door, asking if she could see Martin. His mother told her it wasn't possible because he had passed away. Mary turned around with chilling coldness and a smile, replying, "I already know he died. I just wanted to see him in his coffin." This statement sent shivers down spines. How could a child speak so callously about such a tragedy? Shortly after this eerie encounter, disturbing notes appeared at Woodlands Nursery School referencing Martin's murder. Someone had broken into the nursery school and vandalized it while leaving behind 4 handwritten notes claiming responsibility for his death. The police dismissed these notes as a tasteless prank despite their alarming content, an oversight that would prove critical later on. Not long after this incident, both Mary and Norma were caught loitering outside the nursery school when police arrived, but were let go without further incident. However, their behavior raised red flags among investigators, who began to suspect there was more beneath the surface. As time went on, Mary began exhibiting increasingly similar behavior. She even drew disturbing pictures in class depicting scenes eerily similar to how Martin was found. She boasted to her classmates about being responsible for his death. However, her tendency to lie made them dismiss her claims as mere attention-seeking antics. On July 31st, just months later, 13-year-old Brian Howe went missing after being seen with Mary and Norma. When his sister Paz approached them for help in finding him, they pretended not to have seen him, but offered assistance in searching for him, a gesture that would soon take a sinister turn. Eventually, Brian's body was discovered in an area filled with debris, the same location Mary had pointed out earlier during their search efforts. This time there were no doubts. He had been brutally murdered. Brian was found covered in foliage. He had been strangled with multiple incisions on his thighs and his private parts partially mutilated, a horrific scene that sent shockwaves throughout the community. The news spread rapidly. 2 young boys had died under such horrific circumstances at the hands of someone they knew. Panic gripped the neighborhood as parents feared for their children's safety. Police began interviewing local children, hoping someone might have seen something that could lead them to a suspect. It didn't take long for investigators to connect Mary with Brian, since he was last seen alive in her company. The suspicious behavior displayed by both girls after Brian's murder raised red flags for authorities, who were now piecing together this chilling puzzle. During their first interrogation by Detective James Thompson, both girls provided evasive answers filled with contradictions, almost as if they were playing a game rather than discussing something so serious. Norma appeared oddly cheerful while Mary acted coldly manipulative. Her demeanor left detectives unsettled as they sensed something deeply wrong. As questioning continued, evidence began accumulating against them. On August 7th, Brian Howe was buried. Detective Thompson attended the ceremony, where he observed Mary standing outside Brian's house, making jokes at family members' expense as they carried out his coffin, a sight that deeply unsettled him and confirmed his suspicions about her involvement. After this incident, both girls were brought back for further questioning, where they began arguing and blaming each other for what happened, a clear sign that cracks were forming in their facade of innocence. Eventually, under pressure from investigators and their families' presence during interrogations, Norma broke down and confessed that Mary had been responsible for Brian's death. Mary admitted she had been present when Brian was killed, but tried placing blame on Norma instead. Both girls contradicted each other's statements, but it became evident they had participated together in these horrific acts, driven by something dark within them. Mary later confessed that they committed these murders purely for pleasure and excitement, devoid of any remorse or empathy whatsoever. A revelation that left the community in disbelief. How could such young girls, barely on the cusp of adolescence, engage in acts so heinous? The very notion that children could harbor such dark impulses shattered the innocence of their neighborhood and sparked intense discussions about the nature of evil and the psychological factors that could lead to such brutality. The media attention surrounding this case grew significantly as the trial date approached. It commenced on December 5, 1968, and lasted for 9 harrowing days. A trial that would capture national attention as people clamored for justice for the innocent lives lost. News outlets were relentless in their coverage, with headlines screaming about the child murderers and public outrage mounting with each passing day. The courtroom was packed with spectators eager to witness the proceedings of a case that seemed to defy logic and morality. As the trial unfolded, it became clear that the prosecution's case against Mary Bell was built on a foundation of chilling evidence. The prosecutor painted a vivid picture of Mary as a cold-blooded killer who derived pleasure from her actions. Testimonies revealed how she had manipulated those around her, including her friend Norma Bell, who was seen as an accomplice but ultimately portrayed as someone who fell under Mary's sinister influence. The courtroom buzzed with tension as jurors listened intently to accounts of Mary's behavior before and after the murders. Her chilling nonchalance when confronted with the gravity of her actions only served to deepen the horror. Witnesses recounted how Mary had shown little regard for the lives she had taken. Her disturbing notes, which she had carelessly left behind, became pivotal pieces of evidence. In one note, she brazenly claimed responsibility for Martin Brown's murder, dismissing it as if it were a mere prank rather than a tragic loss of life. These confessions were not just admissions of guilt. They were chilling insights into her psyche, a glimpse into a mind that reveled in chaos and destruction. As the trial progressed, it became evident that Mary's actions were not isolated incidents, but part of a disturbing pattern of behavior. Reports surfaced detailing previous attempts by Mary to strangle other children, indicating a troubling trajectory that had gone unnoticed until it culminated in tragedy. The courtroom was filled with gasps as details emerged about how she had meticulously planned her attacks, demonstrating a level of pronunciation that belied her tender age. The jury faced an agonizing decision: how to reconcile Mary's youth with the severity of her crimes. Ultimately, they found her guilty of manslaughter rather than murder due to what was termed diminished responsibility. This verdict sparked outrage among many who believed that such heinous acts should not be excused by age or mental state. The public was divided. Some argued for mercy given Mary's age, while others demanded justice for the innocent lives she had taken. In the aftermath of the trial, Mary Bell was sentenced to life imprisonment, a term that would see her confined for nearly 12 years before being released at the age of 23. Her release ignited further controversy. Many questioned whether society had done enough to rehabilitate her or whether she remained a danger to others. The anonymity granted to her post-release only fueled speculation about where she might be and what life she might lead after such a notorious childhood. As we reflect on this case today, we are left grappling with profound questions about childhood innocence lost and how society can sometimes fail to protect its most vulnerable members from those who may pose danger, even at such young ages. The story of Mary Bell serves as a haunting reminder that evil can manifest in unexpected ways and that vigilance is essential in safeguarding our communities. The prosecutor opened by stating whoever killed Brian Howe also murdered Martin Brown, since both bodies shared similar characteristics, having been suffocated, an assertion that resonated deeply with those following the case closely. Norma was first on stand, where handwriting analysis confirmed notes left at Woodlands Nursery School were written by her, implicitly confessing to the crime. This detail remained hidden from public knowledge until now. Forensic evidence linked Mary Bell in both cases, since gray fibers from one of her wool dresses were found on both bodies, while fibers from Norma's skirt were found on Brian's shoes. A damning connection that painted an even clearer picture of their involvement. Despite this overwhelming evidence, there remained doubts regarding whether Norma killed either boy. She appeared more like an unwilling accomplice influenced by Mary, who, although 2 years younger, could easily manipulate her willfully, regarded as an unwitting accomplice, falling under bad influence, thus acquitted, while Mary received life imprisonment for her crimes due to diminished responsibility. A verdict met with mixed reactions from those who followed the trial closely. As we conclude today's episode on Truth Crime, we are left with haunting questions about childhood innocence lost and how society can sometimes fail to protect its most vulnerable members from those who may pose danger, even at such young ages. If you found today's episode insightful or disturbing, please subscribe to Truth Crime and drop your thoughts in the comments below. We'd love to hear your opinions. Thank you for listening.